spend a lot of time with young men, especially a lot of guys who are transitioning out of professional sports. So many of them. And the reason I spend so much time with these guys is because on average, especially in the NFL, over 80% of the guys, when they retire a few years out of the league, they're either, that's how it works, broke, on drugs, divorced, or all three. 80%. Now let me make it very clear. Less than 1/2% of college football players get a chance to play in the NFL. Follow this, those of you, if we got any actuarialists in the room, okay, follow this here. So 1/2% of all college players get to the NFL in the first place. That means it's like winning the lottery when you arrive. Only to arrive and win the lottery for 80% probability that 5 years, 3 years after you're out of winning this lottery, your life is going to be a mess. And we raise these kids to play to get there just for 8 out of 10 chances. Once they come out of it, their life is messed up. Doesn't make a whole lot of sense, does it? But part of the reason is a lot of guys retire from the league, or the league retires you. That's what the NFL stands for, not for long. Okay. But after it retires you, here's the problem. When you retire from something but not retire to something, you're already in trouble. And so when it comes to, you got to retire to a purpose. But this is true for our entire lives. So when people are like, look, I fear the unknown, it's because I don't have a picture of where we're going. So you show me a team who's really fearful and nervous. I show you a team where there's no clarity of where they're going. And clarity is not just knowing what we're doing or where we're going. Clarity is also knowing why we need to go there. And the why isn't just the company's why, but it's every individual in the company's why. All of us got to know the why. It's just making sense. We got to know why this is important. Go to your people. Okay, this is the goal we're going after. This is what it means to me. And this is why it's important to me. Why is it important to you? I really never thought about it. Well, you need to think about it. It needs to be important. Because if not, you'll have heard the story. Look, one guy's laying bricks. What are you doing? I'm laying bricks. Why are you doing it? Because he told me to. Go to the second guy. What are you doing? Laying bricks. Why? Because they told me to build a wall. Third guy, laying bricks. What are you doing? Building a cathedral. Okay, they're all three doing the same exact job. The only difference is they got 3 different reasons for doing it. That third one is doing it way different than the other 2. And that's because someone got involved with explaining the why behind it. And anybody who we deem important, we always explain why to. Have you noticed that? The people important in your life, you're always talking about why. The ones you take for granted, you think you can just tell them without explaining why. Many times I tell people, hey, I need you to do that. But based on who I'm talking to, sometimes I'm like, hey, let me explain why I would like for you to do that. Okay? And it's an automatic respect that's given. And all of a sudden, when we can align on why, we know what's important, we know why it's important, now we're creating some alignment. Now, how we get there, we also want to be aligned, but we also have to keep in mind that's the part of us that must be flexible. It must be flexible. Because if the how, if we only talk about how, and we don't align with the why, when new information shows up and tells us we have to do what we're doing differently, now people they resist. Why are you telling me to change the way I do things? Well, they usually only say that when they weren't clear about why they were doing it in the first place. What? Why? Flexible on the how. And the last part that's very important that we have to have alignment with from a clarity perspective is what will it cost us if we don't do it? What I'm finding in a lot of organizations is there's varying degrees of urgency, and that's the problem. There's varying degrees of urgency because some people just aren't clear. There's going to be a consequence if we don't hurry up and get this right. We haven't talked about the cost of inaction, and it's not enough to just talk about all the great benefits. We also got to talk about what's going to cost us if we don't get here, if we don't do this, if we don't get moving. Is this making sense? Now, I'm going to use this, what I just described, to make it very practical for you, okay? Very practical, in a personal way, okay? I talked about earlier how we all have to learn lessons from all different kind of events and stuff, and I have no problem with being very transparent. I talk about my relationship with my wife a lot when I keynote, a lot. Here's what I discovered. 80-90% of our happiness comes from relationships, and 80 to 90% of our misery comes from relationships, okay? And so I love talking about it because I've gone through the whole spectrum. Kind of responsible for the whole spectrum, but I've gone through it all. So I called my wife. I talked to her last night, and I said, honey, tomorrow, I was supposed to be with a client of mine tomorrow, but instead they canceled. So I called her. I said, honey, we're going to spend a whole day together. Okay, me and you, spend the whole day because I've been traveling like crazy. She said, okay. I said, that's what I want to do. But honey, let me tell you why I want to do it. It's because I got some traveling to come up. We just haven't had any time, just us. We can go to Chipotle's, grab something, take it to go, right? Go down, I live close to Puget Sound, just go by the water, all right? Just sit down there, have a nice little picnic. Really look forward to spending some time with you. Now, she can align with the why. Now, all of a sudden, that's interesting. She was like, no, you know what? That's good. No, that sounds good. That sounds like a plan. Now, here's what I know. What we're going to do is have a date. Why we're going to have this date is because it's important for our relationship. Okay? It's important. Feeds it. Now, how we're going to do it, here's where I got to be flexible. Tomorrow, when I pick her up and when we're leaving, going to get something, she was like, I don't think I want Chipotle. Follow me now. If I get locked on to Chipotle, if I get locked on to the method and forget the why, the whole date's ruined. I'm like, what? We can't go to Chipotle? What's wrong with Chipotle? Golly, we can't go to Chipotle. I am literally allowing the bigger purpose to get lost in something really petty. Is this making sense? Now, the next part is the cost of inaction, and that's for me. Because I also remember what it's like when I didn't take these times with her. I remember that I would rather take these little moments, these opportunities that are invaluable, small but significant, because this makes a difference. I'm aware of the cost of inaction, the cost of not doing this. I've also experienced, which is begging her not to leave. And so as long as I have clarity about what's important, why it's important, how we're going to do it, knowing that can be flexible, but I'm very aware of the cost of inaction, all of a sudden there's an urgency and a willingness to keep working with it. But if I don't have clarity of that, I will keep going on numb in the fog, not realizing how important this is. Is this making sense to everybody? Now, this one tool I just gave you is a great filter system to use when you're working with your teams. When you're wondering, are we in alignment? You can ask those simple questions. Okay, what is it we're wanting to do? Why do we want to do it? Overall, and why individually we want to do it? How are we going to do it? People give ideas. Now, we're going to be flexible on that. What's the cost of inaction if we don't get right to it? If you haven't seen urgency before, you will begin seeing more of it. But these many times, people talk about alignment all the time, but alignment is actually work. It takes work to get aligned. Okay? We all agree, but it doesn't mean we're aligned.